Today is the day the Lord hath made. So let us rejoice and be glad in it. I want to be clear. I do understand the difference between church and state, and I know my lawyers are in the building, so. But I'm so proud to be in the house of the Lord. Because I tell people we can have a lot of titles, but I can tell you what my most important title is: I am a child of God. I know who woke me up this morning. I know who will put me to bed tonight. I know who orders my steps every single day. And I know who protects us. And I'm so grateful. So grateful to each and every one of you and be back here in Cambridge. I have to give a special shout out to the leader of the flock here in Bethel Nation, Pastor Martin, for his remarkable leadership. I gotta tell you, y'all, this is my brother. He's not only my fraternity brother. That's right. That's right. That's right. But also, when I got a chance to go hang out in his office, I'm like, this is a man by my own heart. When he has the Word of God over here and an album of Anita Baker sitting right here. I'm like, that's my God right there. That's my God. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the distinguished bishop. The distinguished bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church of the 2nd District, Bishop Jackson. You know, I always say that, every single one of us are children of God. But you know how sometimes we have a favorite child. Bishop Jackson, you've been a favorite child. And I want to thank you for always being a vessel of the Lord's love. God bless you, and thank you so much for everything you do. To be here and to be around my friend Mayor Stevens, I got to tell you, we have a special, special leader in Mayor Stevens. A person who is about the people. A person who fights for the people. A person who never gets who put her there in the first place. And a person who moves with a sense of urgency that I don't just admire and respect, but someone I will rock you any day I get a chance to. So Mayor Stevens, God bless you and thank you so much. And you were right, when I got a chance to hear Greg Meekins, I was like, are we going to church today? It's only Thursday. But it's to see the way you continue to lead, President Meekins, where you've always shown that the title that we have is good. The impact that we make is great. And I want to thank you for all the repeated leadership and the impact that you continue to make for each and every one of us. God bless you and thank you. And I got to tell you, that introduction, Release Taylor. Man, Pastor, y'all got a good one. You got a good one that you can stab. And I'm actually excited to be back in Baltimore and let you know their new name is Baby Cambridge. God bless you. God bless you for never, ever, ever forgetting that home is where the heart is. And for pouring your heart into home. So God bless you and thank you so much. When I was going through the process of thinking about where I wanted to spend Juneteenth, we were very intentional about making it very clear that I was going to come back to the Eastern Shore for Juneteenth. And I was very clear because I wanted to take this moment to underscore to the entire state that the history of our state is very complicated. It is both painful and inspiring. It is both oppressive and uplifting. It is devastating. And it is hopeful. People sometimes forget that Maryland is the northernmost southern state in the country. Sometimes people get it twisted. Right? Sometimes people forget our history, that the Mason-Dixon line runs through our soil. Sometimes people forget that our beautiful state flag that I wear right here on my lapel is actually an amalgamation of both Confederate and Union symbols. That's our history. That Maryland is the home of some of the most legendary Americans, and Maryland also is home to some of the most racist flaws in American history. That Maryland, you don't know Maryland if you don't know and appreciate the names of Douglas and Tubman and Richardson. But let's also be clear, Maryland is also the birthplace of redlining. Our history is complicated. And even the day, frankly, the day that we come here today to celebrate, Juneteenth, is a contradiction. Because let's be clear, we acknowledge Juneteenth as the moment when all African Americans were finally notified of their freedom, where in Galveston, Texas, enslaved individuals were told that you have your freedom. But let's also be very clear that freedom is a very loose term. Freedom. Ending chattel slavery and ending the transatlantic slave trade was a moment of liberation. But that alone does not mean freedom. These are two very different things. Freedom is the ability to own more than you owe. Freedom is the ability to pass something off to your children besides debt. Freedom is the ability to live and feel safe in your own community and in your own skin. Freedom is an ability to know that who you are is something that should be celebrated and not something that should be discriminated against. Freedom is the ability to have assets that grow and give you flexibility over time. Freedom is the ability to know that your children are attending schools that are preparing you for college and careers. Freedom is the ability to know that your children are attending schools that's teaching them not just how to be employees, but how to be employers. Freedom. Liberation is good, but we demand freedom. So today, in honor of Juneteenth, we honor the spirit and the legacy of Juneteenth not just by celebrating announcements that were made in Galveston, but also by doubling down on our commitment to do the work of repair. Today, we continue the march to freedom. And on day one of our administration, we made it clear that in this moment, Maryland would refuse to tolerate a widening racial wealth gap. Because the racial wealth gap impacts each and every one of us. The racial wealth gap hurts our economy. The racial wealth gap restrains job growth. It limits our potential as a state, and not just for certain groups, but for every single person that calls the state of Maryland home. Think about this. The racial wealth gap has cost this country $16 trillion in GDP over the past 2 decades. Group. That's GDP. It highlights a simple fact that bigotry is expensive. And racism is expensive. And if you want a growing economy, you must make sure that you have an inclusive economy. We have a remarkable lineage of scholarship on this topic. We have more data now on this topic than we have ever had in world history. It is clear as day. It's pains and it's bold path forward. The work of repair doesn't require more analysis. Because we cannot afford to simply meet about the situation before us. We cannot afford to delay progress. We need action. We need urgency. And urgency is the instrument of change. And our action centers on two main principles: assets and access. And this month, we announced a new community investment fund to help Black entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of color access capital to grow their businesses and turn their ideas into thriving industries that support themselves and others. Recently, we launched Maryland's Uplift program to boost appraisal values in historically redlined neighborhoods, highlighting the fact that unfair appraisal values have been one of the greatest wealth thefts that we have seen in our state's history. And just a few days ago, I awarded $4 million in funding to strengthen apprenticeships and job training to create new pathways to wealth for all of us, regardless of the path that we take to get into the workforce. Because we have some of the best four-year colleges in America, in the state of Maryland, to include 4 of the baddest HBCUs on this planet. Delaware State's pretty good too, Bishop. What counts, y'all? 4.5. But I do want to be very clear. We are going to end this lie that every single one of our young people need to attend one of them in order to be economically successful. But today, on Juneteenth, Freedom Day, I am proud to announce the next action steps that Maryland will take on this work of repair. First, dealing with assets. Today, here, I'm announcing our first round of just community designations in the state of Maryland. And the Just Communities was an act that was introduced in the Maryland General Assembly last year by our outstanding Housing Secretary, Secretary Jake Day. He was doing absolutely remarkable work all across the state of Maryland. And the promise of this bill was simple. Let's prioritize communities that were victimized by racially exclusive, place-based policies of the past. Policies like historic redlining, policies like mass incarceration, policies like the urban renewal of the 80s and the 90s, policies where you had government and the private sector colluding to keep Black folks down. And unfair appraisal values. Unfair appraisal values. Telling a person that simply because of who owns it should determine what the value of the house is. And depending on who owns it, depends on if you should own in that neighborhood or not. have been the type of policies that have not just stunted us, but have stunted our future generations and our legacies. And it is not lost on me that there are people who sat in the seat that I now sit in, who gleefully implemented these kind of policies that tore families apart. Sat in the same seat that I now sit in, who gleefully destroyed histories and futures. That they took steps that might not have been overtly cloaked in racism, even though, let's be clear, some of them were actually completely overtly cloaked in racism. But even if they were not overtly cloaked in racism, they were absolutely steeped in it. And for that, I am sorry. And while the General Assembly passed an official policy in 2007, I want to be clear that the work of repair is about much more than just acknowledging the past. It's about taking actions now for a brighter future. It's about identifying where those policies and structures were implemented and who exactly they affected. And then providing justice to those who the state was the most unjust to. And under my authority as governor, I have approved the designation of 419 different communities in Maryland as just communities, and I want to be clear. Our just communities aren't centralized in one part of the state. The work of repair involves all communities. And it's going to mean we are going to take a look at every single corner of this state to make sure that we are getting this right. Includes 17 of our state's 24 jurisdictions, and today I'm announcing that our Just Communities initiative will make sure that all of our just communities are put at the front of the line for upwards of $400 million. That one of our first just communities is right here in Cambridge, Maryland. This is one of the most aggressive initiatives in our state's history to address the racial wealth gap. Because the work of repair is not in the future. Hear me when I say the work of repair is now. And now the second announcement that I'm making today will focus on access. That Maryland shamefully still locks up more black men and boys than any other state in this nation. By the way, number 2 is Mississippi. Many who have already served their time come back home and realize that despite the fact that they are no longer incarcerated, the shackles of incarceration still hold them back. By the way, including for actions that are now completely legal. It's something I never actually fully understood. Because, and thanks to so many of y'all, when I ran for governor, we ended up receiving more individual votes than anyone who'd ever run for governor in the history of the state. But I think for this reason. Only one thing beat me on on the ballot that year? Cannabis. I'm like, yo, who is cannabis? And how they so popular? Where the state of Maryland voted to have a recreational cannabis market, we said we are going to make sure that it is then rolled out legally and safely and smartly and equitably. But I also want to be very clear. We are not going to celebrate the benefits of legalization if we do not deal with the consequences of criminalization. And we need to end this myth that every single sentence needs to be a life sentence. So last year, I pardoned over 175,000 cannabis convictions for paraphernalia convictions. And by the way, it was the country's largest mass pardon ever. And today, right here in Cambridge, I'm here to announce we're about to run this thing back. Because today, I will once again use my constitutional powers to sign an additional 7,000 pardons for similar convictions, another one of the largest mass pardons in the history of the United States of America. So as a state, we're speaking loud and proud. At a time when we are watching Donald Trump unapologetically divest from black and underserved communities, at a time when we are watching this federal administration dismantling minority business programs, at a time when we're watching this federal administration trying to ban books about our history. And they're doing it unapologetically. So I want to be clear. We are going to unapologetically show that there is a better way. That is why I was proud to sign legislation that actually, while they're trying to ban books, I was proud to sign legislation that bans the banning of books. When they say they are banning these books because they don't want people to feel bad, we all know that is not the case. They're trying to ban the books because they don't want us to know our history. Because if you know your history, you know your power. And if you know your power, you know that you never walk into a room that you do not belong in. I never walk into a room because of someone's kindness. I don't walk into a room because of someone's benevolence. I don't walk into a room because of someone's social experiment. I don't walk into a room because someone wanted to sprinkle diversity into the room. I walk into that room because the room was incomplete until I showed up. And that's why we've invested over $1.3 billion in the Maryland HBCUs. They're trying to stop contracts going to our minority-owned businesses. That is why I was proud to introduce and sign legislation on procurement reform, and it's why just in my time as governor, we have delivered more than $800 million of state contracts to black-owned businesses in the state of Maryland. We are just getting started, guys. We're not flinching because we know our history and we know our power. Together, we are going to continue the work of repair that delivers results, and we're not waiting. That this is a moment when we celebrate the ancestors. We celebrate the trailblazers. We celebrate those who had high hopes for us. We celebrate those who fought for us, even if they did not know us by name. They fought for the hope of us. And they thought that when we had the baton in our hand, that we would know what to do with it. And we would stand there unafraid. To know that the only way that you can forge a better future is if you do the work to forge it yourselves. We're not waiting on anybody.
Come on now.
And in this moment, I know where I have a clock that sits on my desk that tells me how many days that I have left in my term. It sits there. It says we've got 578 days left in my first term. Now let's be clear, next year I'm going to come back and ask for your support because we plan on running that thing back and getting it. 578 days, and here's what I know. We're not wasting one of them. We don't need to. We're all we need. The work of repair is now. Facing the rising sun of our new day. Let us march on.